Well, that's a rather boppy start to a true crime channel, so we might as well keep the silliness going.
What is the vegetable that's so low in calories? What makes the salad come alive? Fried with some butter or even on a barbecue, the one that's got the taste you can't hide. Mushrooms, the taste for all seasons. Mushrooms, got a taste of their own. Mushrooms, for so many reasons. The taste sensational vegetable for all seasons.
Yeah, probably a little too much cheer. But hello, everyone. G'day, Groovers. I've just washed my hair a bit earlier, so it's looking a bit wet. But we'll soldier on. How's everyone doing? Just a quick live tonight to have a look at a few of the updates with the mushroom story. Nothing really major because obviously, as we all know, the police are keeping very tight-lipped on it at the moment, not talking about the investigation because they want to keep the sleuths at bay. Fancy that. Hey, Francesca. Few g'days. I've got to say g'day to Cody. Cody's been with me since day one. Pretty much, Cody remembers me doing Bella Box openings, amongst other things. So Cody is now our new wrench because, I mean, seriously, Cody was 20 when Cody found me and is now 25. So Cody's our baby mod. And I hope you enjoy it. Use it wisely, Grasshopper. My Girl Waffles is here at the start. Let's start at the very beginning. We've also got DWS AU here. G'day. Loving the Aussie stuff. We've got to get more Aussies happening on the YouTubes. I wanted to start a thing called OzTube a few years ago because we're always live when America is asleep or they're just waking up or London's awake and America's not. You know, it's so hard, man. Covering the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, we used to get up. I'd be up at like 11 p.m. I'd go live and we'd go right through till the sun came up here. It was a time. Good to see you, Francesca. Jenny Jones. Hi, Jenny Jones. I'm new here and love your chat. Welcome, Jenny. You're going to love the community even more. All the good eggs of YouTube find us. We're under the radar. Nobody knows about us, but occasionally someone finds us, like you, and then you'll find out how fabulous our community is. Like the funniest people on YouTube by a mile. All sorts of opinions on this channel, very diverse, and that's cool with us too. I know, Cody, 5 years. Memories. So glad you found us, Jenny Jones. I think you'll have fun here. I'm sure you will. I know you will. The community is amazing. And it's great that you found us because we always say, like, we don't want to be this massive channel. We just want the good eggs of YouTube to find us and come and hang out with us. This channel is kind of quirky. It's got a focus on cooking and crime, and I use my legal background. I'm a lawyer, and we are not into sleuthing and speculating. There's no problem speculating when there's some facts, but we don't go outside the facts. But I agree, we do have to get more Aussies in true crime, and it seems like the majority of the Yanks in true crime are kind of weird. You're being very polite. This is a late show. We can be rude. But be polite if you want. But, yeah, they are a bit odd. And it's odd, too, that the creators who claim to be true crime that couldn't be further from it have hundreds of people rolling in to see them. And you've got some of them that just read articles, others that get other people to do research for them, or they just kind of go live and talk and then end up talking about other YouTubers and how much they suck. It's very strange. I certainly don't use YouTube for my information about cases, but a lot of people, I think, will find this channel, we're pretty good at just putting the facts that we know out there and then just watching stories as they unravel. And the mushroom mystery continues to, but only a little bit. So a few updates. Firstly, where's my first story? Oh, the little mushroom video's in the way. Okay, so firstly, a couple of the victims were farewelled this week in a private, very quiet funeral, but there is a public memorial that is going to be happening. Where's Life Perplexed? We've got to find her and tell her. Off you go to that public memorial that you're so fond of. It is a very friendly community. It is indeed. We're friendly and we're funny. And the thing that's great about it, Jenny, is every time you come in, everyone's like, hey, good to see you. How's things? And if you've had something going on that you were chatting about the last time, they'll be like, how's so-and-so or whatever. Like, it's really lovely. Bristol, hello. Good morning. Grab yourself a mega pint of coffee. So, yeah, first up, Don and Gail Patterson had a funeral earlier in the week, but a memorial service is also being planned so that members of the community can go along and celebrate their lives and say goodbye to them. These are the two 70-year-olds. They are the former parents-in-law of Erin Patterson, the woman who cooked the fatal mushroom beef Wellington dish. She is a suspect, but no charges have been laid and investigations are continuing. These are the parents of her former husband, Simon. And, yeah, both aged 70. And then it was Gail's sister, Heather, who also sadly passed away. And Heather's husband, Ian, is actually improving, still in hospital, but he's coming along. He's doing better than he was. So that's good news. But they're planning a memorial service in Carramburra for Don and Gail Patterson, and the homicide detectives are continuing to investigate. And they're planning on a public memorial service, so it's going to give everyone in the community an opportunity to celebrate their lives. Ian Wilkinson, it's unlikely he'll attend it because he's still in hospital, but it's pretty awful. The poor guy has lost his wife, his sister-in-law, and her brother and his brother-in-law. But he is the pastor of the little community as well, and the community will certainly be celebrating when he leaves hospital. There's no doubt about it. This is the house where the deadly mushroom feast was served. Also, you're a lawyer. I've tamed down a little bit in my old age, but I'm still a little crazy from time to time. I'm still implosive. So I might just need legal advice one day. Well, I've got a restricted practicing certificate, not because I'm a bad lawyer. It's just that I work in a niche area of law and in a community legal centre, so we have a slightly different practicing certificate. So I can only help you with issues that I'm licensed to practice in. It's convenient. But I can certainly recommend some great criminal defence lawyers if that's what you're after. Hi, Josie. How are you? Okay, so the memorial is going to happen at the Carramburra Recreation Centre on the 31st of August. So Life Perplexed, you've got a week to get out to Australia. A spokesperson for the family put out a statement to say that the Pattersons were known for their humility and the positive impact they had on those around them. They have also expressed their deep gratitude for the outpouring of love, support and understanding during this challenging time. Then we're just going back into the a bit of the history where Erin put out the statement that she released to media. Now, the police did make one comment, which was that it's not an official part of the investigation. It's just important to remember that. It was really a statement that she put out to try and get the media to back off. She's also now got a sign on her gate. That was reported in it's not a disreputable tabloid paper, but it's a bit mainstream. But there was a photo, and I took a screenshot and tried to zoom in to read it, but I couldn't. But yeah, she's sort of hoping the media would back off a bit. And the point of putting out that statement was to, I guess, answer some questions, and she was hoping they'd back off. But the entire area is sort of like, can you all just piss off? And it has quietened down a bit, which is great. But imagine if this was America. Bullhorn Betty would still be out the front with her bullhorn. Things would probably be getting crazier. And yeah, so she tried to clear up the record, and then some media outlets have latched onto it going, no, there's even more questions now. But that's pretty much the news regarding updates. There's not a lot more to report. Just a couple of little things that aren't directly connected to, well, I mean, they're connected to the story, but they're, oh, look at you, Cody. You're already doing the, don't forget to hit the like button. Bless you. You're awesome. Thank you. Now this article, these are just some articles. Hopefully you guys all know the mushroom story. But if you don't, this is part 4. So there's other episodes looking at it. But I've also got an article I'll do next after this one, which has a chronology just for anyone who's not. Although actually put a 1 in chat if you're not familiar with the mushroom story, because I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that covers stuff and you're all there like, yeah, we know, just get on with the updates. Do you believe, hey, soulmate, do you believe she actually ate any of it as she claimed? Well, I believe if it's true, it's going to be pretty easy to, like all the going to the doctor and then being transferred to the hospital by an ambulance, like all of that's going to be easily verified. Now, Humanimal has thrown a spanner in the works because she's very good at that. Wondering if, did she possibly take laxatives and things like that to give herself chronic diarrhea and present with all of these symptoms? But interestingly, I think it might even be the article we're about to look at in the Australian newspaper, which goes into detail about death cap poisoning. But your age, your weight, all sorts of things can change how you're affected and when you're affected by them. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that she started presenting with symptoms a little bit later than the older guests. But I think a lot of that statement, the things that she put in there, can be easily verified. But I also think it's quite telling that she even admitted to lying about the dehydrator in that statement. So it wasn't a statement of a whole heap of hogwash, in my opinion. Like if you're going to write a statement and admit to lying to the cops, then you'd be pretty silly to add extra lies to the statement. So yeah, I mean, I'm very much with this case at the moment, presumption of innocence is foremost in my thinking until further details emerge. What do you guys reckon? Is that the only good thing that Claret goes hard in, Betty? Cheeky monkey. Maybe he does. Well, we don't know if there was gravy either. I mean, a beef Wellington is delicious when served with gravy, but we don't know about the gravy. Humanimal goes right out there. She's like, I mean, I like playing devil's avocado with the facts. She plays devil's avocado while ignoring the facts or using a fact to then embellish it or not even embellish it, just enlarge it. The way she thinks is very clever, but it's very sleuthy too at times. But I just love her turns of phrase and some of the ideas that she comes up with. When I'm playing devil's avocado, I might go down some of those roads and then I'm like, what facts do you have to support this though? And it's like, repair it back, Tor. Yeah, she also said she fed the kids some and she scraped mushrooms off because the kids don't like the mushrooms. So the beef Wellington, which we had on the screen last time, it's basically the chunk of beef and then this sort of mushroom paste and then the pastry. So it would be quite easy to scrape the mushroom layer off. You're confused by it, Jenny. We should watch back on the other episodes we've done because it's sort of looking just at the information that we know that's verified. You seriously don't know what to believe anymore. Well, but she did get sick, potentially. I mean, if you're going to lie about being taken to hospital in an ambulance, it's pretty dumb because it can be easily verified, as can her admission at the ER department. And she wasn't admitted into the hospital as an inpatient, but she was treated at the emergency department. So it'd be pretty silly to lie about stuff like that. I'm confused because the media posts contradicting stories about the shrooms. There was a follow-up theory that no other mushrooms sold at the store were tarnished. So who knows? Exactly. Who knows? But I think it was in episode 3, I was like, well, what if there was a rogue Woolies employee who just did a bit of foraging and chucked a few in one packet and just put them out on the shelves. Let's see what happens with this. Didn't anyone think of that possible scenario, like a sabotage? But yeah, the fact that nobody else got sick is definitely from the store-bought ones. And I mean, the random dried Asian mushroom, or the mushrooms from the Asian grocery, again, pretty easy to verify that. I mean, I think the cops would have already been latching straight onto that story and taking Erin for a little drive to Waverley for her to show them which shop it was. But even like I did on my live, I was like, I'll show you the Asian grocery where I go, and I actually couldn't find it. And the one I thought was the one where I went wasn't the correct one, because the next thing I scrolled down and a photo popped up of the one I go to. I'm like, hang on a sec, it's this one. And I buy a lot of Asian food. I lived in Vietnam. Like, I am big on Asia. I've traveled through most of Asia. It's a cuisine I'm terribly familiar with and adore. So I couldn't tell you the name of my, I'd have to Google it again. I mean, I know Wing & Co. That's the other one I go to, but that's been around forever. And it's called Wing & Co. It doesn't just have a heap of writing, like Asian writing, Chinese or whatever. Some of them are Korean, some of them are Vietnamese, some of them are Taiwanese, some of them are Filipino. But yeah, they just got that out the front. You're like, it's just the store with the red banner out the front. I don't know what it's called. It's just where I go and buy shit. The mushrooms do grow, but then also, there's rumors flying around that she was an experienced forager, but none of that has come from the police or any verified source. And we're going to be looking at some tabloid reports just to show how bad they are. And they're feeding all of these online sleuths. They're as bad as each other. Correct. You would think that there would be no Asian market selling them. But again, what if there was one little weird sabotage packet? Who knows, right? Yes, Sunny tends to... Oh, she's just reappeared, actually. Gratuitous Sunny shot. She's our mascot. That's Sunny. Sunny Bum. My floof. So many rumours, very little verified facts. But the Australian, interestingly, often have things behind a paywall. But occasionally they don't. I always check. So this was an article from today in the Australian where they talk about these deadly mushrooms and that the toxin might have already left them before they ended up in the hospital. And it's just got a few little interesting snippets that I thought we could look at. So, yeah, this forensic toxicologist, who I believe gets named further down in the article, thinks that it could be quite tricky based on the chain of events and the time frame that they are presented at hospital and so on, and the likelihood of them even being tested accurately. So we've had a verified report that there are toxicology results that they're waiting on, and they intimated it would take about 6 weeks, I think. So that's one of the reasons there's not a lot of major updates at the moment. But Michael Robertson, his name is, and he said that for forensic toxicologists to determine whether a death cap mushroom was the cause of death, they would need access to time-sensitive pathology samples. There's Erin, that's Erin on the right, and they're the death cap mushrooms on the left. I'm joking. Erin on the left, looking distraught. Now, a lot of people have already just got her pinned as the murderer. But what was the motive, people? And if you go down the money thing again, this chick is loaded. She has a Victorian property portfolio, for fuck's sake. Is that Mel whatever? How are you, gorgeous? God, Cement Shoes was in my live earlier. Mel's impersonation of MRB, of Merb, is comedy gold. I said, you always do that. You come over to my channel, tell me Mel's comedy gold. I fucking know that. I think I saw it, but if not, we'll check it out before I end my live. But yeah, you got the comedy gold, comedic gold, in fact, were the words he used. And I agree. Why did she need to dehydrate them? You can definitely buy the dehydrated mushroom. But then I own a dehydrator myself. In fact, I've never done a mushroom in there, though. I do fruit in there. I like the blood orange slices to put in a gin and tonic. They're pretty awesome. Ex-hubby was supposed to eat the poisonous meal that day. Life insurance. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that comment. Inheritance. Well, no, because she's the wealthy one. She's very wealthy. Victorian property portfolio, including a waterfront property that her mother left her in 2019. So, yeah. And also the ex-husband, the tabloid say that he pulled out at the last minute, but it was actually a couple of days before the lunch that he declined to attend. So it's interesting, just the tiniest of detail and the way it's reported, the difference it can make in how you look at something. And like I said, she could be guilty as fuck, but at the moment there's not enough evidence to convict her, in my opinion. Otherwise, she would have already been charged. So for the moment, she has the presumption of innocence. Isn't that refreshing on YouTube? There are still some creators out there that don't jump on the sleuth train. Cement Shoes loves you. And I had a crack at him because he doesn't know how well you and I know each other. I mean, he knows we know each other, but it's like, Jesus, Cement Shoes, you come into my live and you never say I do comedy gold. And then he's like, well, Batshit is one of the funniest shows on, or the funniest show on YouTube. I'm like, yeah, but that's Finn as well. Where's my glory? But no, he loved it. You're a genius. I prefer, well, I think I saw MRB, but yeah, I think when I say I prefer Natalia, I just don't think anyone's ever done a better Natasha Cooper impersonation. And it makes me wet my pants. Yeah, they found the dehydrator. She lied. That's the thing she lied to the cops about. She said she got rid of the dehydrator a long time ago. But her ex-husband at the hospital said to her, did you use the dehydrator to poison my parents? And she freaked out and thought she'd lose custody of the kids. So she chucked out the dehydrator. That's the one part of the story which makes me go, but then what would you do in that situation? Would you be just sitting there? I don't know. I mean, she gave the hospital a piece of the beef Wellington to test it. So is chucking out the dehydrator that big a deal when she's actually she's handed over the remaining beef Wellington to be tested? My mate said she seems like a Buick, huh? A Buick or what? It's so easy to make someone look bad. And like I said, if she's bad to the bone, we will let rip. Cement is a super fan. Yeah, but they've got the dehydrator. But I mean, well, I would have thought the beef Wellington might hold the evidence they need to arrest. I thought I was up on the screen because I've been doing all these little faces and to Mel. And I wasn't even on the screen. Probably because I thought you might confuse me with the woman above me. You know, sisters from different misters, both sporting chins of many. The hairdryer fan makes you wear your pants. I know the best thing about that was it was unrehearsed and just us cracking each other up, but it being live for a change. That's what I loved about it. My friend lives in Leongatha, and she was so shocked to hear about this. I had to point out this case to her. Really? Yeah, just, I mean, then that's the thing. Like, why would you take it where it's going to be easily found? You know, dig a hole in your backyard and bury it. Like it. And that's the thing, you know, all these, oh, she threw out the dehydrator. It's like she threw it out at a refuse station where there's CCTV footage. Like, she wasn't being sneaky and, you know, disposing of it at 3 a.m. or putting it in the neighbour's bin over the road, Brian Koberger style. So, yeah, I mean, you can. That's why I like the presumption of innocence game, because you can try to explain away stuff and all of it just seems kind of logical and makes sense. But on YouTube, it's the tiniest detail that people will be going live about for years. You know, the little hand coming out of the flower bed at the other Brian's parents' house. Why have I forgotten his laundries? The little hand. How many lives for hours on end? Zooming in and out. It's a hand. It's a hand. It wasn't a fucking hand. Somebody in the flower bed and their little hand coming up going, I'm hungry. Give me food. For fuck's sake. I see a hand. Lawler's corner. G'day, Groover. My mate said she seems like a bit of a nana, not capable of a sophisticated murder plan. Interesting. Yeah. Sorry, you sent the message before. I do that all the time. You prematurely sended. I was trying to think of something that rhymed with ejaculated. You prematurely posturated. I don't know. Oh, look, Melmo was thinking about Lawler, and Lawler just strolls on in. Yeah, throw it in the bush. The news are terrible. We're going to be looking at the tabloids shortly. The power of suggestion. You've had a rough week on the water, Lawler. Good grief. Last thing I'm guessing is she was planning on taking out herself, the kids, the hubby, all of them in one swoop, like this, like a really hardcore family annihilator. Don't just take out the spouse and the kids. Well, let's just take out the in-laws, sister and husband. Fuck it, let's just kill the whole town with a beef Wellington. Yeah, I don't think it's sophisticated either. It is a pretty dumb plan. Faux show. All right, I'll let you two talk about Jesus and walking on water while I go back over to the Australian. Okay, so this is the stuff that's a bit interesting, I think, just for us to understand how these mushrooms work. So the toxin only lasts in the blood for 12 to 24 hours and in the pee-pee, in the urine, for up to 48 hours. Now, according to the cops, the 4 family members started to experience symptoms of food poisoning the same night they ate the beef Wellington. So they had the beef Wellington lunch, and by that evening, they started to get a little bit food poisoning. They then attended at local hospitals soon after that, and they were transferred to Austin Hospital in northeast Melbourne. Now, this was all at around like the middle of the night. 6 days after the fateful lunch, 2 of them had died, and a third, Don, he died the following day. So according to this person, I've got to get his official title again, forensic toxicologist, Dr. Robertson, he said the hospital would have had less than 2 days to take vital samples from the 4 victims before the toxin actually disappeared from their bloodstream. So this isn't one of those cases where you could exhume a body years later and the toxin's still there. Like, he gone. These mushrooms are insane. And I watched a video earlier of a woman who made a soup, a mushroom soup. She's the only one that ate it. She got incredibly sick. But she made this soup with mushrooms that she'd foraged, and they were death caps, and she survived. And she said it was the most delicious mushroom soup she'd ever made. She said it was so good. She couldn't stop eating it. These mushrooms are as evil as Lucy Letby, and there they are. I mean, to me, because they're sort of yellow, I just wouldn't be interested in them. Plus, as kids growing up, we had big, flat, brown mushrooms on the farm, and they were the ones we were allowed to pick. But everything else, no go. But, yeah, the fact that they've got this sort of yellowish gill thing going on, I don't find them, I don't think they look appetizing at all. I think this channel is on the algorithm, but the thumbs up help even when we're live. She did scrape off the kitty's mushrooms. You're trying to think of some innuendo-related joke, but you've had too many beers. Fair call. Why not? I would have too if I wasn't working tomorrow. Yeah, well, food poisoning isn't the worst. A death cap mushroom poisoning is. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yes, the case of the killer mushroom. Soulmate is, we need Humanimal in here now for Soulmate to bounce off with. So I find that quite fascinating that the toxin 48 hours later. So he went on to say they probably didn't get there till like midnight or the early hours of the following morning, like 2, 3 a.m., which means that's close to 12 hours after the lunch before they even got to the hospital, which was the first opportunity to collect samples. And it's possible that all the samples just weren't available or taken, or that they were actually useless. But if they were taken and they're okay, it could still take weeks before the results come back. And there's Don and Gail Patterson, who were farewelled this week at a small private funeral for family. And I'm going to show you next why tabloids are vile. He went on to say that the forensic toxicologists will have likely never done this before. And they've also got to get a pure sample of the toxin. And because death cap mushroom poisoning is so uncommon in Australia, they pretty much would have to source expert advice from overseas. And the question now is, how quickly can you get something from Europe express post to Australia? Well, you can send an email. That's a kind of dumb comment. But he said it might be more efficient to have the samples taken to a larger forensic lab in Europe, where the death cap mushroom's more common and forensic toxicologists are practiced at testing it. And he's saying, 6 weeks to complete. So there's still at least 2 weeks before these results are likely to be available. And once again, here's a call out for Life Perplexed, Laura. Obnoxiously relevant. There's a community memorial for the Pattersons in the Victorian town of Corumburra coming up on the 31st of August. You've got a week to get to Australia for that, because we know how much you like going to memorials for people you've never met. Don't they look like lovely people? Uh-oh. Your nephew's here. Your sister's father-in-law is passing. Oh, that's sad. Much love to the fam. Well, this is it though, Mama. I reckon the cops, so it's one of the first things the cops would have done was like, let's go to Waverley, show us the shop. And there'll be CCTV footage, and there might be FPOS receipts, and, there might be data on her phone, and they'd be absolutely looking into that for show. Because the commercial mushroom from, the local supermarket just doesn't fit the bill. But the mysterious dried mushrooms in the pantry for a few months may. No, there's no mention of whether she attended the funeral. I mean, there's a mention that nobody knows that it wasn't mentioned if she attended. He'll be a very crucial witness, and it sounds like he's going to be fine. Oh, no, that's my beautiful friend Laura. No. Life Perplexed is a YouTuber, Cody. Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I buy dried mushrooms and I own a dehydrator. Was the point I was going to make earlier when I sit here looking straight at my air fryer that has dehydrating capacities, and I use it frequently. I don't know where you can buy like porcini mushrooms fresh to dehydrate them. That's why the only option is to buy them dehydrated from an Asian grocer or from, weirdly, our local little down the road has dried porcini, but I've never seen fresh porcini just sitting there to buy and dehydrate yourself. He wrote it with a quill. Calm down, DWS. He's old-fashioned. Just need a kidney. I think it's the liver, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, Laura the candle maker. But you wouldn't rehydrate the what? All right, so while we've just talked about the funeral, I want to show you. Oh, there's a second article too about just the typical Australian reaction, reassuring everyone that the Australian commercial mushroom farms are safe. A lot of farmers markets are suffering. All of the supermarket suppliers are reassuring people that they have incredibly high safety standards. There's no chance of any toxic mushrooms ending up in their stores. The whole Australian mushroom industry is defending its supply chain standards and encouraging people to continue to enjoy the humble fungus. The Australian Mushroom Growers Association is really aggressively encouraging everyone in Australia to eat mushrooms. It's meat for vegetarians. But yeah, the small-scale exotic mushroom producers are really struggling, especially at farmers markets. And Woolies and Coles have confirmed again that they have still not had any reports of illness or any requests for mushroom. They haven't put out any requests for mushroom recall either. So if you're an Aussie and you love your mushrooms, fucking eat them, all right? Because the Australian Mushroom Growers Association is saying, make Australia's mushrooms great again. I only said that because they're the AMGA, and it kind of reminds me of the MAGA. See what I did there? Eat a mushroom. Why? Because they're delicious. He does need something. We're very factual on this channel, and don't forget it. Sunny is incredibly cute. I'll show you her face. I'll change my avatar and stop my camera for a sec. Because you're not familiar with at the moment, all Sunny is to you is a little grey blob in the background. This is beautiful Sunny. Look at that floofer. So mushrooms are cheap at the moment. I'd say they are. Death cap mushrooms are deadly cheap. Nice one, Lawler. I'll see what you did there. So we interrupt this broadcast for an announcement from our sponsors. Back when I was a stand-up comedian, like when we actually got to perform in clubs before COVID killed them, I was in a double act too called Dangerous Curves with my friend Joe, and we did a version of the song Magic Mushrooms. And I wish we'd recorded it because I keep singing it. You know, the magic moments. I rewrote that to be Magic Mushrooms because I'm fucking hilarious. At least I thought I was. She is affectionately known as Sunny Bum. She's also known as Sunshine, Kiki, Moogie, pets, we give them 83 nicknames. I simply refuse. Well, the Australian Mushroom Growers Association is saying, Lola, come on. Get out there and eat a mushroom. Yeah, funny enough, soulmate, we went to dinner the other night and had like a feed me menu of sorts. And one of the first rounds, which we ended up taking out because we wanted to have cheese puffs, which were incredible. They were like filled with this 3-month-old Manchego cheese. Oh my God, they were so good. But yeah, mushrooms on toast was one. And this is like a high-end restaurant, so they would have been amazing. But the guy was like, well, let's just take out the mushrooms and toast. I said, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. But they did just serve mushrooms at the launch of the Australian female, what is it, the AWFLA, the Australian Women's Football League of Australia. They had a mushroom dish at the launch and everyone was delighted.
It is the vegetable that's so low in calories. What makes the salad come alive? Fried with some butter or even on a barbecue, the one that's got the taste you can't hide. Mushrooms, the taste for all seasons. Mushrooms, got a taste of their own. Mushrooms, for so many reasons. The taste sensational vegetable for all seasons.
Yeah. Some seasons clearly better than others. But did you know the mushroom foraging season is only 8 weeks, according to one of the articles that I read. Yeah, definitely don't get your magic mushrooms mixed up with your death caps. Soulmate feels like cooking mushrooms in butter and putting them on toast. They want to kill us, all the buggers. Oh, I inspired you to get flathead. It was delicious. Francesca, have you got cravings as well? I don't have a fresh mushroom in this house. I don't even have a porcini in this house, but I do have mushroom soup. And I made it about a month ago and it's delicious. I might have to have that over the weekend because it's going to be a bit cold again. Let's bring up the next article, Groovers. Oh, we're going to now have a look at the tabloids. And I need to just find the worst of the bunch. This article is the one that I was going to react to, I will do next. But this one, this is an opportunity for us all to just calm down, have a look at a tabloid and why they are so vile and why YouTubers who use articles like this as their their reliable source. I've watched a couple of YouTubers, both American, doing the mushroom story, and both of them didn't refer to their sources, but I keep an eye on this bullshit and I knew exactly where their information came from, and it wasn't from a credible source. So this is the Daily Mail, UK. But just read that first paragraph. Mushroom victims' agonizing death. Their livers melted as acid filled their vital organs, causing intense, unstoppable pain after eating delicious death-cap mushroom beef Wellington, expert says. Totally fit. But how awful is that? Like, every article from a verified source and even information from the police has already told us all that it is a most unpleasant death. It's weird because you eat it and you don't get sick straight away. And then you get ill and it's kind of food poisoning, gastro sort of like symptoms. And then you go through this period of like you recover, you feel great again. But unbeknownst to you, while you're feeling good in that what they call the honeymoon period, it's horrible. And you think you're on the mend, It's actually, the toxins are actually eating away at your organs. Salmonella. Oh my God, of all the names and the emojis. Salmonella. Oh my God, I'm dying. I'm going to wet my pants. And you've got a cat as your emoji or as your avatar. Salmonella. That's too funny. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. On my StreamYard, it looks like a fish at the end of your name, but on my YouTube, it's a dove. Salmonella. But is that waffles in that photo? But what a horrible article. Yes, the Daily Mail UK, the pinnacle. I know, it melted. What a great choice of word. As acid filled their vital organs. Like, I am sorry, but I felt bad that my new intro, because I haven't had time to make a good, like a proper one yet, and I don't even have an outro yet, so I'm gonna have to play the intro again at the end. And it's got like game show music. I was like, that's a bit cheery for a show about law and crime. I need to do something. But I just needed to do something because I couldn't play Smooth Criminal again now that we have a new name. So I just threw something together in 20 minutes this afternoon. And then I was like, well, it's already ridiculously cheery when we're about to talk about the mysterious mushrooms of death. I might as well go straight into the mushroom ad. Oh, Murdoch is repulsive. Yeah, it is a dove, but in flatheads do kill as well. But in StreamYard, it's a fish. Oh, actually, no. Now that I'm looking right, yeah, no, it is. But it's actually weirdly, it's flying in the opposite. See, I've highlighted it from StreamYard. But now, if I go back to YouTube and highlight it, it's different. See that? Yeah, I think 1% is kind too. Let's give them 0.5. And then look at this. Tragic message by eerie single grave of mushroom victims. The eerie single grave. Why is that eerie? The couples get buried together all the time. I think it's kind of romantic. Eerie single grave. And the tragic message, I mean, when you see it in a minute, it's a message of, we're going to miss you, we love you, on a bunch of flowers. That's the tragic message. I mean, I'm sorry, but we already know they died, and that is the tragedy. But people leaving flowers on a gravesite that says, we love you and we're going to miss you, on a bunch of flowers, how is that tragic? And then the eerie single grave. What's eerie about that? Candace Sutton for the Daily Mail Australia wrote this, and the UK published it. But yeah, an expert on death cap mushroom poisoning has revealed the physical torment the lunch guest who ate Erin's beef Wellington would have suffered. A physician who asked to be referred to as only as Dr. L. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, look, I've got all this highly important information. I want you to let the public know that these people would have suffered greatly, like organs were melted by acid. But please don't put my name in there. Just refer to me as Dr. L. L for liar. I mean, he may not be a liar, but the fact that he's not happy to be named in the Daily Mail. I wonder why, Dr. L. But yeah, it's a very clever poison, according to Dr. L, in the way it catastrophically attacks a person's body and essentially melts down a person's liver. It's just disgusting. And this isn't even the article that I'm reacting to. I've only got 10 minutes left. I was going to try to get this live to a tight little hour. So we might have to move on a bit. But This is the shit that the YouTube sleuths lap up. You don't even have to eat the actual mushroom to die. Even eating or drinking liquid in which they were cooked or boiled can be enough to kill you, according to Dr. L. There's Erin. This photo bugs me because look at that stain on her trousers. Every time I see this photo, I'm like, can we get a different photo that she's been pigging out in the car and a bit of butter or something has fallen on her trousers. Yeah, eerie single grave. But yeah, that to me is more disturbing than most things. I bet she regrets shoving that ham and cheese croissant in her face in her car and the butter dripping and she didn't notice. It's a risk when you wear light-coloured pants, Erin. And then Dr. L keeps going on. It's also... He said it's making waves with experts overseas because of the rarity of such poisonings becoming police matters. Well, that's true, but I think it's making waves with everyone around the world, not just experts overseas. So go fuck yourself, Dr. L. We're talking about it. And we're not experts on anything. And then it just goes back. But here we have a picture. This is the creepiest fuck note on the eerie grave. It's kind of hard to read, but I think they actually transcribe it further down. But as you can see, it's a little card on a paper with a bunch of flowers, and that's basically it. It probably fell off and got a bit muddy, maybe. I don't know, but does it warrant a headline? Dr. L also goes into all sorts of random information and details, like hundreds of people die every year and are poisoned, the most occurring in China's Yunnan province, in Kunming, but also in Assam, in Far Eastern India, Southern and Eastern Europe, Russia, and Guatemala. And hundreds of dogs die. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Do. But there's only a few examples in history where someone is suspected. And then he's ripped off articles that other people have already spoken about, like Agrippina, the younger, poisoning her husband, Claudius, with a plate of mushrooms so that Nero would become emperor. That didn't end well. But this is the first alleged case involving police and Amanita phthaloids, also known as the toxin from the death cap mushroom. And yes, he has outlined in graphic detail and sensationalistic detail what would have happened to Don and Gail and Heather, and also why Ian Wilkinson survived and how they all could have been saved and returned home long ago, according to Dr. L. Why the fuck weren't you working at the hospital they were taken to? And he says, typically what happens is when people eat death caps, they will say, this is the most delicious mushroom I've ever eaten. Well, I did listen to a woman earlier who made soup from them, and she said that it was the best mushroom soup she'd ever made. Then he talks about how they could have gone home and had no symptoms for at least 6 hours. Well, we just read that in a verified, reputable publication. Then he talks about a bit of vomiting and diarrhea, dehydration. People think they've just got a bit of food poisoning. There's Ian and Heather Wilkinson. So poor Heather, she passed away as well. And Ian's the one who survived this mushroom mystery. Now, the 4 attending at the hospital in Melbourne is earlier than usual. Patients don't, according to Dr. L, patients don't usually present at hospital until very late. An average time of 41 hours is typical, but north of 36 hours. Isn't Dr. L a wanker? North of 36 hours. Jesus, just say more than, but north of. But then they're extremely dehydrated. If you did a liver function test, there'd be an unmistakable rise in their liver enzymes. Patients usually have a history of having meals of forage mushrooms. Then they'd get a bit of hydration happening, a bit of IV fluid, and then eventually sent back home. But that's not exactly what happened. They didn't get sent home. They stayed in hospital, and nearly a week later, 3 of them had died. Dr. L said a lack of quick diagnosis of amatoxin poisoning, which could have easily been traced via a urine sample, according to him, would have contributed to their deaths, along with their extreme dehydration, which prevented the poison being expelled. Well, maybe the extreme dehydration made urination impossible to test the urine. Dr. L. It's just a terrible, terrible article. You reckon she's going to get at least a manslaughter charge? Interesting, soulmate. They would. The sleuths would be on this, and the YouTube ones too. Your dad's eerie grave since, yeah, my mum's since 2000 and my dad's 2014. Very disgusting adjectives. Yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't cause any copycat killings too. Yes, the stained white trousers. It could be anything. Good point. You keep Nate entertained, Mel. You're a good auntie. Why do they? I don't know. But they certainly are very good at finding the worst photos imaginable, aren't they? Oh, hang on. I thought it once again. G'day. G'day, Grievers. And then we're reassured, that at the moment, the Daily Mail Australia is not suggesting for a moment that Erin's responsible for the deaths. There's Erin again, another unfortunate photo of her in distress, I would imagine. Another little caption here, 8 to 10 hours to start causing vomiting, diarrhea, and then slowly kill off the kidneys and cause an agonizing melt of the liver. And then, I really don't want to read more of Dr. L because he's just gross, because I'm going to look at all the detail. We're talking about peeing, vomiting, diarrhea, cholera, dehydration, reducing blood flow. I mean, it's a lot of detail. Apparently, the milk thistle plant, according to Dr. L, is great for recovery of people who've ingested the death cap mushroom. But who've been saved from kidney failure and liver melt. If your kidneys haven't carked it and your liver hasn't melted, get some milk thistle in you. Get it in your gob. Preferably go for the left, the tablet form. I wouldn't be munching down on the thistle on the other side. So, mate, you mentioned that earlier, and I still haven't had a chance to research that. I still don't have any thoughts compared to when you asked me in my live earlier. I mean, the tiny bit that I got to listen to, there's too much. I don't know enough yet. I will let you know when I've had a chance to fully research it. I'm trying to get my head around it because there's 2 different schools of thought on that. One is it was a defense-driven move, and other people that sounded way more aware of the law said it was more likely to come from the prosecutors. So I've still got a lot of study on that to do. This is about the death cap mushrooms. Calm down, Groover. One topic at a time. It's left you craving mushrooms. We all are. Yes, we all are, Francesca says. Melting livers, peeing. Is this Dr. Nick from The Simpsons? Well, because they didn't. Well, I don't think these guys, unfortunately, I don't think Milk Thistle was going to save any of them. Well, I mean, even the one who survived it, I think he's beyond Milk Thistle. There's Don. But yeah, he's crapping on, and then he goes into a huge thing about liver failure. You can't beat this poison with a stick, he says. This guy's just a wanker. He's all talking about bile acids and fatty meals and the gallbladder. Like on and on it goes. There's Erin again, talking to the media folk. And he still keeps going. And then now there's a whole chunk about the pain. The pain. painful abdominal cramps, repetitive retching, diarrhea. You can manage the pain, but when the liver is melting down in an unstoppable manner, there's only so much you can do. Dr. L, please stop. Sorry, there's Heather and on the left and Gail. And yeah, it does say they could have been saved if doctors had known what they were poisoned with and had acted early to rehydrate them with saline drips and thistle medicine. And now there's this whole thing from Dr. L about how he could have saved them, referring to a clinical paper from 2013. But it just goes on and on and on. What the fuck is this? This is where the dehydrator ended up. And they could test for the mushroom's DNA rather than traces of the poison. They just threw that in there. And that's the more common photo that we've seen of the cops actually at the refuse station. And then it keeps going on and on and on. What a knob. So that's one. But the one I was going to react to, and I'm just going to do it really quickly because I've got sidetracked again. And I'm very, very, well, I've now gone over an hour. So I'm just going to very quickly show this one. Mushroom deaths. Let me get it up. Mushroom deaths. Leading psychologist calls out weird detail about Erin's lunch that killed the three. I have read this article 5 times. There is absolutely no weird detail provided by a psychologist in this article anywhere. The article starts by referring to a leading forensic psychologist who said there are potential red flags everywhere in this case. And that from that point on, there are no red flags at all. None. Not one. We go into the background with the lunch. We talk about the victims, sadly. They actually get the ages wrong because Gail and Don were both 70 and Heather was 66 and Ian was 68, is 68. But this psychologist, Tim Watson Munro, says there are potential red flags that he believes should be investigated. And oh, look, there we are again. The stained trouser. And then we go down and there is presumably these are the red flags, right? He's saying that Simon pulled out at the last minute. Well, we already knew about that. And he pulled out of going, this is the guy here. At least he showed his face. This other thing here about the ex-husband in hospital the year before, they've got medical records and there's nothing out there to say it was anything to do with mushroom poisoning. And if it was any other, the guy was in ICU for 21 days. They would have done a shitload of testing to try and work out what was wrong with him. The police statement by Ms. Patterson was recently leaked to the media. That is bullshit. Ms. Patterson, Erin Patterson, released her statement to the media, and the police reminded everyone that it was a statement she released to the media, to the Australian Broadcasting Commission, also known as the ABC, and it wasn't part of their formal investigation. So you got that one wrong. She did talk about dumping the dehydrator and explained why, and that's the sort of odd bit, but then she also took a piece of the pie to the hospital and said, test this, motherfuckers. So does one cancel out the other? If you're really trying to hide evidence, would you be taking the pie, the beef Wellington, to the hospital to give it to the forensic toxicologist to test? I think not. What else have you got for us, Tim? So far, nothing new. Nothing we haven't talked about already. Yep, she denies any wrongdoing. Didn't know how the meal caused the 3 deaths. The investigation is ongoing. we know about the mushrooms from the shop and the Asian grocer in Melbourne, but she couldn't remember the name. Then we've got this sort of who's who thing going on with the victims' photos with dead under there. Then we've got the ex-husband, and there's Erin, and then little outlines for the two kiddies. And in the background, a mushroom picture. See that there? The above family tree shows the connections between them all. And then it goes on to things that, well, we've also got the Daily Mail Australia reported Ms. Patterson was an experienced forager, and yet nothing has come out to verify any of that. Once again, Daily Mail Australia covering their ass. Oh, we're not saying she intentionally did it. She did tell the Australian she felt like she'd been painted as an evil witch. She can't have friends over. There's media everywhere. She went to her sisters. The media were there too. Then they talk about Erin's mother dying of cancer. Thank God this time around they mentioned that her mother died of cancer, because one of the earlier articles implied it might have been a mysterious death as well. Bit of info about the mum. Bit of info about Erin's childhood. Then we've got the timeline of events, which we've already gone through several times. And that's it. And we go back to the top. Leading psychologist calls out weird detail. What's the weird fucking detail? I mean, the story is weird. The whole story is weird, but where's the new weird detail? Like, I wanted to see what it was so I could take the piss out of this article and their new weird detail. There's nothing new in this article. And most of the stuff that's already been debunked by experts and credible media outlets are just repeated in here. So go tabloids. You keep feeding those online sleuths. Bless your cotton socks. My gosh, Dr. L, the shit for Halloween. Dr. L is a new Charlie Tier. Dr. L would have saved them, yeah, for sure. No, we should all remember, and we are. That's why I slow down and do show the photos and so on. And the original thumbnail of this series is their photos too. So, of course, we're remembering them. But we do also, this is a story I'm covering, and we do have a bit of fun here, but not at the expense of the victims. Like, I'm never going to make fun of them. But it's okay for us to find some humor along the way as well. I'm not just a lawyer, I'm also a comedian. So there's a kind of crossover of my areas of not necessarily expertise, but experience. And it's terribly sad, and it's horrible how they died. And for a tabloid like that and other mainstream media outlets to be publishing in graphic detail what their deaths would have been like, that to me is horrific. I mean, it's on a par with Zavgirl putting autopsy photos of Gannon Stauch on her Patreon and charging $3. Like, we don't need to know all the gory details. It's horrifying, and it's so disrespectful because, I mean, who knows what they experienced? It would not have been fun at all, for sure. They all lost their lives, but it's not okay to put all that information and say that all of that stuff happened to them when other experts have said every person reacts very differently. Some people survive. I mean, there was an 18-month-old baby in America who ate half a death cap mushroom and survived. So, yeah, a leading psychologist. The weird detail is there's no weird detail. Well, I don't know if he's actually come out and said she's guilty. But all the ex-husband, the only thing that has been confirmed is the Facebook post, and even that, which he wrote last year, but even that's it. He hasn't given any statements to the media, or he would have spoken to the police. So where did you get that impression from? Because he hasn't actually spoken to the media or anyone at all. Like, if people are saying he thinks she's guilty, when and where did he say that? Because it hasn't come out of any official press conferences with the cops or anything. I agree. I think her life is ruined either way, for sure. Yeah, Humanimal believes it's the gravy too, soulmate. Because what about if the pie, like you're thinking, the pie actually had perfect, or the Wellington had completely fine mushies in it, but a couple of cheeky little death caps in the gravy that the kids didn't have because there were mushrooms in it, and Erin just didn't enjoy gravy on her beef Wellington. I see that's where Humanimal is too. That's why we need you two talking to each other. Correct. It's very sad, the 3 lives lost, but we do have a bit of banter about the headline. We do. And it's an awful, awful story, for sure. But we're not disrespectful to the victims here either. But it's good to take the piss out of forensic psychologists that are clearly not anything remotely qualified. Dr. L, in fact, I wish now that we'd spend more. No, I don't. I didn't need to know more of the graphic details. But what saddens me is there's another one, which I'm not even going to go into, but it's more about the unmarked grave. Well, they've just been buried. Poor Don and Gail have just been buried. And this other article, a third article, the headline is Unmarked Grave of Mushroom Victims Gail and Don Patterson Buried in Secret at Curramborough General Cemetery. It wasn't secret. It was a private family funeral. It was secret to you, nosy media people. And then, they honed in on that little card. And there's actually photos of their grave. Photos of the victim again, then the cemetery gates, and then they've zoomed in on all these notes, and then someone's transcribed them. There's a picture of the ex-husband saying he was believed to have held it. Well, it makes sense. It was his parents. It's not clear if Erin attended the service, but apparently his children did. And then there's a zoomed in photo of their grave. It's just awful. And then, there's another photo of her in the stained trousers, but they've cropped it. And then there's another card on the flowers on top of the graves. It's just hideous. And there are YouTubers out there that use those sorts of articles as their source of information. Is Farika sold his salt here? Hello. We've covered a lot. In fact, we've covered a lot. So much so I've gone 15 minutes over. So I am going to end this live. Nice to have you here, Verika, but we're logging out. Lawyer, comedian, is that an oxymoron? No, it's a tautology. A bit of modesty with the cropped photo of her stained trousers, yes. Yeah, so hopefully you'll come back, Jenny, and that you don't feel that we're not. We're very focused on victims. Victims matter very much on this channel. Facts and victims are, in fact, the two things that matter the most when we're covering crime. But we do also like to take the piss out of tabloids and imaginary doctors like Dr. L, but also pointing out the severity of that kind of irresponsible reporting. It's reckless. It's awful, and it's the sort of stuff that motivates people on YouTube to actually go to towns and grave sites and all sorts of stuff and just get right into it and think they're going to solve it before the police do because they don't have the skills that police have. And that's a real focus here. A lot of the focus of this channel is how social media is impacting criminal and civil trials, and that's often the underwriting sort of, or sometimes the overriding theme of what we're talking about too. So I hope you'll come back and that you don't think that us having a few lighthearted moments is disrespectful. But what a story. And we'll be doing another episode down the track coming up on this channel very soon. We'll be doing the 2 watch parties of the Bruce Lerham and Brittany Higgins story, because it's just crazy. And I don't think there's a writer on the planet that could have come up with this one. It's just got absolutely everything, with corruption running the whole way through. It's full on. We'll be doing 2 watch parties on that and having a discussion, and I'll be opening up the panel if people want to jump up and participate in that. I've also got a food and crime story other than mushrooms coming up, because that's now one of the things we'll be doing on here a lot. I've also got a live scammer. He had called me when I was live down at the beach, and normally when somebody calls me, my audio cuts out, which I kind of appreciate, because it means I can actually, if I need to, answer a call. But it was a scammer calling me, but it killed my audio on StreamYard. StreamYard's been a little bit dodgy of late, and I pay for it, and I'm contemplating finding another platform. But I might do a little bit of live scam baiting, although he's already pissing me off. So I might be rude and get rid of him before I have a chance to go live with that. And I'm still really fascinated by the whole Lucy Letby thing. I think I'll have to just do a live at some point just so we can all just talk about it, because it's just trying to work her out is so difficult. And then that's probably most of the things that are coming up soon. So keep an eye out for some lives. Hopefully you guys will join me for them. And it's been absolutely awesome to have you all here. And welcome to Jenny Jones, our newest community member. And congrats again to Cody, our newest mod. But I love you guys a lot. And I will see you all again very, very soon. And because I haven't had time to make an outro yet, I'm going to play the intro again. Take care, everyone. Have a great Friday. I'm going to start to get ready for bed. I've got a big day at work tomorrow and then a celebration of life straight after. So I need some sleep. But I'll see you all again very soon. I don't know. That just didn't feel right. We need an outro. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. See you, everyone.
Глобаша. She was